Yo, what's going on everybody? Farley back here again today for part 3 of your in-depth scripting tutorial. So last time we talked about for loops and everything. We got a little bit into function arguments and parameters. So first things first of this episode, I want to reiterate and make it clear that whenever I use the word method, I'm also talking about a function, okay? Because the word function is the same thing as method. These two are the same thing, a function and a method, okay? So I use those both interchangeably because they're the same thing, okay? So just know a function and a method are the same thing. All right, so today we're going to jump into a few different things. We're going to talk about keeping track of time of something, which we're just going to do with a variable and counting. We're going to talk about our next type of loop, which is the while loop, and we're going to do some stuff with that. And we're going to talk about connections, function connections, okay, for the player's object, which is this right here. All right, so what we're going to do today, we're going to make a script that will keep track of how long a player is in the game. Whenever the player leaves the game, then it will print out how long they were in the game, okay? So to do that, first things we want to do is whenever the player joins, we want to start the whole thing. So we're going to go game.players.player added connect. Oops, it's not a capital C. Make sure it's not capital. That will mess it up. Connect function player. All right. So this is called an unnamed function, or something along those lines. Basically, it's just a function without a name. As you can see, there is no name here. So the way we've been doing it, which I haven't actually shown you a connection yet, we'll have like function on click, right? You've probably seen this before if you've done any research with scripting. And then it'll be like click detector dot mouse click connect on click. Okay? So this is our function onClick. We named it onClick with the keyword function in front of it. Then, whenever we have a connection like this, so if a click detector was clicked, which you can't call this because it doesn't exist, but if we had a click detector and it was clicked by a dot mouse click, we'd call connect, and then we tell it to connect the function onClick. Okay, and then we'd go to this function. That's the same thing as saying click detector dot mouse click connect function. Okay, so these two are the same thing. All right. The only difference is we could call the named function. We could go like that anywhere we wanted to in the function. Whereas with this one, it will only fire whenever a click detector gets clicked. Okay. So that's the difference. So there are different times to use that. A large part of the time you can use unnamed, which is what we're doing here. Okay. So we're going to use an unnamed function. So game.players, which is this object here, dot player added. So if we go to view object browser and we scroll down until we find in the P's, if I can find it real quickly, players, here we go. We can see everything that we can call it. We have all its properties here. We have all of its methods or functions here. And we have all of its connections here, okay? So you'll see that player added is a connection. It's an event, which is the same thing as a connection. So what we're going to do here, we can call it players.playerAdded because that's an event. So we could call any of these player.change, player.ancestryChange, player.childadded, but we're going to call players.playerAdded. So whenever a player joins, this will fire, and now we're catching it with this function. We're going to go colon connect, and then we're going to make an unnamed function with the argument player. Okay, player is, as you might have guessed, the player that joined, which caused this function to connect in the first place. All right. So now we have that, and I'll show you if we put in here a print test, print player joined, or better yet, what we can do, we can print out player joined, and that'll say the player's name. And then we'll go over here. For this one, we will need to click this box, all right? Make sure it's set to one player, and you're going to click the start button. This will start both a server and a player, okay? So previously I've been showing you the play solo button or test, whatever it's called. This is a server and a player. So we have our player here and then our server here. And inside of our server we can show stuff. Looks like I actually did forget something. So instead, let's try player.name perhaps. I predicted this will work now. sometimes it will do weird stuff like that because that's a variable and not a direct object. Here we go. Player 1 joined. All right. So now we can see whenever a player joins the server, and actually if we go to test, and then unclick server and we start one player, it'll add another player, and you'll see it'll print out player 2 joined. All right. That's our script right there doing that. Okay. So whenever a player joins the server, it will fire. This function will fire. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna first make a variable local time in game equals to 0. Actually, yeah, that's fine. Local time in game equals to 0, and local is in game equals false. So down here, we're going to put our while statement. So while blank do end is pretty much the structure for all while loops you will do, okay? In here, you're going to want to put something like true if you wanted it to just go on forever without stopping, or you would have put while wait 1 if you wanted it to do it every 1 second forever without stopping. But what we're going to do, we're going to give it a condition. Okay, so a condition is what you see like if, then, and end. Okay, this is a conditional statement, which I wasn't going to get into yet. I'll get into them next video, but we're going to use a condition here. So if we were to say like if time of day equals 1, then print it's afternoon. Now this is just an example. The condition here is that time of day equals 1, which is, this is not actually a thing. We'd have to call game.lighting, and then we couldn't just use 1. But my point is, a condition is just saying like if this happens, then this happens. Okay, I'll talk about conditionals in our next video, and I'll go into depth with them. But for now, we're going to use a condition while is in game equals true. So the equals operator is what you use for a condition. Okay. So whenever you use 1 equals, for example, x equals 1, you're assigning the value of 1 to the variable x. X equals 1 is saying it's going to return true or false whether or not the variable x is equal to the value of 1. Okay? So whenever we're using that equals here, it's comparing the variable is in game, it's seeing if it is equal to true. So while, and then if is in game equals true, we will do the stuff in here, okay? So as long as is in game equals true, this loop will run. So what we're going to do to make this true is whenever the player joins, we're going to go is in game equals true, all right? So now this loop will be running because it says true, and the loop becomes immediately after it. So then what we're going to do, the most important part of any while loop you do, there has to be a delay in it or it will crash the game, okay? So what I mean by that, we're going to put a wait statement in there, okay? So that means this loop will run every 1 second. And that's what we want because we're counting how much time a player spends in the game. So now we're going to print out the amount of time they've been in the game. So we're going to go player.name has been in game for, and then time in game seconds. Now something I should go over now, these two periods here, they are called concatenation, a concatenation character. So what you do, this is a string, as we talked about, it's in quotation marks, it's in a string, all the pink or purplish text, whichever one it is. If I wanted to put the name of this player here, which is not a string because there's no quotation marks, in the same statement as this string, I have to concatenate them together with the dot dot. So basically what you can imagine it is like a plus sign. These two are basically a plus sign. You're saying print out the player's name and then print out with it has been in game for, and then print out with it time in game, and then print out with it seconds, okay? So it just connects a string to a value or variable. And if that doesn't make sense, like everything else in this, which I encourage you to remember, it will eventually. Don't get frustrated. All right, so for this to work, what we're going to have to do, right beneath this, we're going to take our other variable, time in game, set it equal to time in game plus 1. Now you might be thinking, can we just go time in game plus 1? No, you can't. Because what you have to do here, you're setting time in game, the variable, equal to itself plus 1. So once we're at 5 seconds, we want it to equal 5 plus 1, or 6 seconds, okay? We can't just go 5 plus 1. That wouldn't work, okay, because it's not actually setting it then, it's just making a calculation, which wouldn't do us any good. So you have to go variable equals itself plus 1 for this. Alright, so now you will see, whenever we test it, or you should see unless I did something wrong, which I don't think I did, but I might have. And be aware, whenever you're scripting, you will make mistakes all the time. But that's not a big deal, because you can just fix them. Okay? So now you'll see it's counting up. Player 1 has been in game for 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. And that'll just keep on counting forever right now. So what we're going to add is another connection, game.players. And if you could guess, whenever we look at these players, these events, which of these do you think will add for whenever a player leaves? I'm thinking player removing. So what we'll do here, we will go players.player removing connect function. We're going to get our player again. We don't really need this here, but we can. So we're going to keep it there. What we could do, we could make a global variable called player, and then in here set player. Actually, we should probably make this different. So the local player, we could set player equal to player. We're not going to do that though, but that is one thing that we could do that will be useful in the future for some things. That's what we're going to do. Get into players.player removing connect. Actually, we do need to do that, to be honest with you. Local player, and we will set player equal to player. So we spelled it out here so that it's different than this one. So we're calling player equals the player who joined the game. And we're going to say the player that's leaving. If the player that's leaving equals to player, then, so this is saying if the person that just left is the same person that joined earlier, then what we want to do, we want to set is in game equal to false, so that this loop will stop counting and printing. And we're going to print out player.name was in game for a total of time in game seconds. Alright, so let's try that now. These two together should work to count up how long a player's in game and then say how long they were in the game total whenever the player leaves. So we're chilling out in game, we're player. You'll see that it's counting up how long we're in game. Now if we exit out this player and leave the game, you'll see that's not related. You'll see it printed out player 1 was in game for a total of 10 seconds. And that's what we want, okay? So that's good, our script works, we're good to go. Now you should know, I made this script here just for the purpose of this tutorial, okay? This would not work for trying to keep track of every player in your game, okay? Because it would only work for the first person to join. And then whoever joined after that person left, it would work for them. But it would not work for every player in the game. You'd have to do something very different for that, which would be quite a bit more complicated with some tables and stuff. In the future, maybe we will revisit this to make it actually functional with our GUIs and stuff. This was mainly used just to show you what this connection, how these connections work with the unnamed function of players. Can show you, this is conditional here, which I forgot to mention to you. Conditional, it's just an if followed by the condition. So if this player that joined equals to player that's leaving, or player that's leaving equals to player that joined, and it has an end. Okay, that's pretty much all the conditionals are. Conditionals are really simple. And so it showed that, and then we showed concatenation and our while loop, okay? So just know, this script would probably not work the way that you would want it to, but that's okay. I encourage you to try to make it to work the way you'd want it to, and in the future, in another tutorial long down the road, perhaps we'll come back and visit this and make it work like that for real. But for now, it would not work the way that you would like it to, most likely. That being said, guys, thank you very much for watching another tutorial. I would encourage you to please practice this stuff on your own. Once again, I will make it very clear to you, my tutorials help you gain the knowledge that you need, but you will not get the skill that you need unless you go off on your own and figure this stuff out, okay? wiki.roblox.com, wiki.roblox.com. That is your most valuable resource. I promise to you. You should use that. Just try to teach yourself as much as you can and then come back and watch these tutorials to get knowledge on new information and new things to work on, okay? But thank you very much for watching. I encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you're willing to, if you found it helpful or enjoyable. And please share my channel. A lot of people know about this, guys, and let's get some more scripters in the world. And check out my other videos as well if you want to see some other gameplay and whatnot. Thank you very much for watching. I am Farley, and I will see you later.